Hey guys, Brian here from Better Chess Training, and in today's video, I'm going to be doing some tactics, problem solving, attempting to break past the 2400 rating on Chess.com's Tactics Trainer. I talk a little more about that in the video, so let's get right to it. Okay guys, today I am going to do my tactics training and record it here. I'm hoping to break over the 2400 barrier, which would be the highest I've ever gotten here. And I did a video a few months ago on some tips on how I got past the 2300 barrier on the tactics trainer. Now, just a couple notes here before we get started. What you'll see here in the lower right is the part of the screen that will show the rating, so you'll see that as we go along. Also, just note that the rating that you get with the tactics trainer doesn't necessarily correlate with chess strength, but I do think the more stronger you are with tactics, the more you are going to have that ability to apply that in your chess games. And part of that, if you see when you see the titled players, the chess masters, international master, grandmasters on the chess.com chess trainer, their ratings are much higher, 2700, 3000. So the higher that gets, that will help you with your chess. So it's not an end all, but it is we could say a supportive factor in your chess strength. So definitely important to try to improve your tactics. I don't think anyone would dispute that, but also recognizing where it fits. There's some people who are very good at tactics who are lacking in other parts of the game, and then they don't get much better, or that's something else is holding them back. Okay, so let's get started here. A little excited. I'm getting over a cold, so we're gonna try our best here, and here we go. Okay, black to play, and here we've got, looks like we've got some type of attack on the king. Of course, we have to watch out. White has some threats as well, and typically with this, it's very helpful to look at the most forcing moves. So rook to b8 check would be one, and actually it's very forcing. And then we would have rook to b2 or king to a1. What other moves do we have? We have queen to b3 check. We have queen. I'm just kind of looking at them real quick here. Queen to b5 check, queen to b4 check. But I think getting this rook over would probably be helpful. The difficulty here is that this queen, finding a way for this queen to get into the action might be somewhat difficult because of this rook here. So let's just kind of take a look at some lines here. Rook to b8 check, and then if king to a1, we have knight to b3 check. Oh, actually no, we just have queen to c1 is mate. Okay, so it has to be rook to b2, and so the question is, how do we follow up from there? Well, we have rook takes b2 check, king takes b2, and then we have to have something forcing here, because this queen to, there's a lot of threats here. So rook to b8, rook to b2, rook takes b2 check, king takes b2. Then I feel like I want to keep this queen here to keep this king from moving too far. We have here a3 check, and of course if he takes, we have queen to b3 is mate, and if he goes to, so the only other square would be b1, and here, what do we have here? We have queen to c3 check with mate to follow. So rook to b8 is, I think, the solution. Okay, let's just look at this. a3 check. I just want to make sure there's no other better moves here. And I think Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure A3 check. He could actually go to B1. So I want to make sure I can cover that. Um, A3 check, king to B1, and here. Oh, okay. Then I would just go. Then I would go A2 check, king to A1, and then I think I see knight to B3 check. So I think I have to go A3 check here. Let's go for it. King to B1. And I think I have to go, because I don't have time to, I have to make a check here, I think. So I think it has to be A2 check. Okay. And I have broken the 2400 barrier, but we're going to keep going today. We're going to try to stay above that. 4 more problems. Let's go to the next one. Okay, and here we go. Okay. Okay, we've got let's take a look here. Again, it looks like another type of king attack. And I think I see this one already. It might be a queen. Could be a queen sacrifice. I'm going to look at this first. Queen to g6 check. And here the only two legal moves would be queen takes g6. And then h takes g6 check. King takes g7, rook to h7 is mate. So that's and then if f takes, so queen takes g6 check, or queen to g6 check, h takes g6 check, h takes g6 check, because this is a double check and this pawn is protected. Again, the only legal move here is king takes g7, and then rook to h7 again is mate because the king can't go to f7 because of the rook. I think that's the answer. So let's go. Oh, well, let's see. Let me just make sure here because I did see knight takes g6 as well. Queen takes g6, knight takes g6. I think it's the same thing. H takes g6 check, king takes g7, rook to h7 is mate. So let's try it. Okay, queen takes g7. Here we have the double check, and here we have the mate. So that was a fairly easy one, and we moved up by 1. And let's keep going here. That problem was rated 2000. Okay, let's see here. Now, we've got the queen being attacked. Oh, let's see. Material, so it looks like black is actually ahead a piece. So we don't want to, let's see. So we need to do something drastic, I think. Let's see here. Well, I see this e7 square here for this knight, like something like queen to g8 check, but there's no, doesn't seem like there is a mate there. Knight to e7, what's the follow-up after queen takes d5? Again, I don't really see anything off there, so I mean, this king is getting. this king position is kind of troublesome. I wonder, can we play? Can we just bring our queen to like e6? And then if rook to e8, queen to e6 with the threat of knight to e7, and then the follow-up threat here. So the idea being to avoid trading queens. It does involve a kind of a quiet move, queen to e6. Then what about rook to e8? Rook to e8, then knight to e7. Then, because I'm still threatening mate here. And the idea, I think, is that this knight can't defend these squares because his own pawns are in the way. So I like queen to e6, the idea with knight to e7. And then if rook takes e7, then what? Then I could go d takes e7 check. King to e8. Then what do I have? Then I have queen to g8 check. King takes e7. King takes e7, and then queen takes g7 check. And then wherever the king goes, I'll be up the exchange at that point. So that's a possibility. Queen to e6 with the idea of knight to e7. So the idea is, can he... The problem for the king is that he's stalemated, so he cannot go anywhere. Well, the threat here actually is... The other threat, if he doesn't play rook d8, is queen to e7 check, and then queen takes g7 mate. That move looks pretty good. Let's see here. I just want to make sure. And if I get any of these wrong, we'll go back and check. But I think it's queen to e6. It's kind of a fascinating problem in a way. Let's see if there's anything else. Let's see, queen takes c6. I feel after b takes c6, white doesn't have any follow-up there, I think. Knight takes g7. Then I think queen takes d5 first. And again, there's no follow-up. I even looked at queen takes f7, but there's no follow-up after king takes f7. So I think it's queen to e6. Okay. Because it's the only one that keeps me in this, it has this threat here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay. Now let's double check this before I make any other moves here. I think knight to e7 is necessary. But again, let's see here. I think that is the solution. Let's play knight to e7. He takes, and then again, let me double check here. So my line here is d takes e7 check, king to e8, then queen. Oh, wait a second. Queen to g8 check. I think the king has to take because I'll just take whatever piece he puts on f8 to interpose. Whereas queen takes e7 check, king to g8. Do I have a follow-up? I don't think I do because the problem here... The problem here is that queen takes g7, king to g8, and then king to, or queen to e8 check, then he can just play, say, his knight here. So I think d takes e7 check is more clear. King takes e7, queen to g8 check, king takes e7, and then queen takes here. So let's try it. Okay, that looks correct. And again, I want to double check and make sure I'm not missing a better move. No, I think it's simply I'm going to pick up this bishop. Okay. Okay, we got that. That was a 2300 rated problem. And so far, so good. Let's see here. We've got 3 in a row. 2 more. Let's go for it. Okay, we've got this rook attacking my knight. And this is, let's see here. Looks to be a promotion problem. The idea, the initial thought is he's trying to push his A pawn. I'm trying to push my E pawn. I think I need to attack his rook. And then if he pushes A2, I push E7. And then if he promotes, can I promote with check? Then his king goes to H7. And then I could just pick up this rook. And then I'm up a lot of material. That should be sufficient for victory. So let's look at that. King to F3. And now if he takes the knight, then I'm ahead here with E7 because now my king is covering the E7 square. So a lot of these problems is a typical pattern where you need to cover the square there. So I think it's king to F3. Just because if I push this now, then he skewers it with rook to E2 check. And then after I move my king, he just takes my pawn. So I think I need to go here first. Now, if he goes... If after king to F3, he goes to G6, then I still think I could just push because now there's no check and he can't win this pawn right away. So I think it's king to F3. Let's try it. I might be wrong here. Okay, he takes here, and then I think I just push, and then I win. I promote before he does, and I can prevent him from promoting. Okay, that was a 2200 rated problem, and 4 in a row. We're doing well, guys. I'm very pleased here. Hold on. So I've got this little cold here that's been hampering me. Okay, well, we got a lot of pieces on the board here. Black to move. And here, let's take a look here. Well, I always try to, when there's a lot of pieces, I try to count the material first. So it looks like every material is about even here. The next thing to look for is if there are any hanging pawns, because this does not look like a direct, king attack type of position. However, we do want to examine this check here, queen to e6 check. See if there's anything we can do with that. What I do see is this move here, Rook takes h3, winning this pawn and attacking the queen. The idea is that it kind of forces him to take back with the rook, and then at that point, he has to cover this h1 square because I'm threatening to skewer the king and the rook here, but I'm also attacking this bishop here. So let's see, rook takes h3, rook takes h3, rook takes h3, and then I think queen to g2 has to happen, and then rook takes here, and I've won apiece. So I think that's the answer here. So rook takes h3. Are there any other captures here? See, the problem is all of these squares are covered. So there's no knight. I mean, you can go knight takes d3 check or d6 check, but then c takes, that I take back with the pawn, not with the queen. Then, of course, he can come in. He can win a pawn, but I'm winning a piece. So I think it's rook takes h3 check. But let me just see here if this queen to e6 does anything or makes any difference at all. Queen to e6 check. The problem there, I think, is that he plays bishop to e2, and then he no longer has that issue because that bishop is no longer hanging. So I don't think we want to do that. Okay? So rook takes h3, rook takes h3, rook takes h3. Now he takes here, and I think the idea is I would just take... I think I have to take back with the pawn. Okay, he takes here, and he's got this queen, this check threat here, but I can just move my king up, and I have this skewer now. Well, it's not exactly... Well, I can play rook to h1 check. He can play bishop to f1, but then this check here, queen here, queen to e6 check looks good. Or I could, you know what? I think I just take the bishop because he could play. He's a little out of trouble if I play rook to h1 check. Then he just plays bishop to f1 and queen to e6 check. He just plays bishop or queen to e3. So I think I need to take his... I think I just need to take his rook here. I think the question is, can he trap it somehow? Rook takes d3, the bishop to e6, or e3. Well, then can I just play... well, I could play maybe my knight here to attack his... So this is... I don't know if this is meant to be very tricky or... Oh, the other option here is... rook to h1 check, bishop to f1, queen to h3. But then he's got king to e2. This is the hard part of the problem here, is whether I take the bishop or check on h1. Rook takes d3. Can he trap it with bishop to e6, or I'm sorry, e3. Well, what I could do here is play my rook to e6. And then if he plays, say, king to... So he plays his check, I can just play my king to d7. But if he plays king to e2 to attack my rook, then I can play queen here to e4. If he trades queens, then my pawn will protect this rook. Well, this gets it's a little hairy here. And then if he tries to attack this pawn, for example, then actually I can play my knight here to f5. Maybe I'm looking deeper than this problem really intends me to. I think I'm just going to take this bishop here and we'll see. Okay, that is correct. Maybe I'll take a look at that one position. But okay, guys, I got 5 out of 5. I'm at 2410, broke that 2400 barrier, and thanks for watching. Okay, guys, I just want to take a look at that last problem and just analyze that last position because it's fairly complicated, and I was talking about a lot of variations, but let's just take a quick look at it just to finish up here. As we saw, the beginning of the problem was pretty forced here, and here after knight takes, pawn takes, and then queen takes, the question was, should I play rook to h1 check or take the bishop? Now let's take a look at rook to h1 check, and here bishop to f1, and then if I play something like queen to h3, then king to e2 seems to have everything protected here because this bishop is protected, and then material-wise, we can see that black has, I think material is even, but this pawn is very weak after, say, something like queen to f8 check. This pawn is hanging, so let's say queen to e6 check, then I think we're in pretty good shape here. For example, the king could just move or block with the bishop, and I think white's in pretty good shape, probably with a slight advantage. Okay, let's go back here. Rook takes d3. The other question was whether or not we could trap it. And let's take a look here. Bishop to e3. And here, if we take a look here, let's see here. I've got... At first, I thought I could just play something like queen to e6. And after king to e2, I would play queen to e4. And then after, say, f3, then I could just trade here and probably have a slight advantage with two knights against the rook. Okay, but even better, let's go back. So that's what I thought about during the problem. But what the chess engine is telling me is that even better would be knight to a5. Now let's see why that is the case. Let's look at king to e2 again, attacking this rook. And the reason why is right here is queen to b5. So moving that knight out of the way allows the queen to protect the rook this way. So the rook is not trapped, and that is why rook takes d3 was the solution. Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. I appreciate you taking the time to see me hit this milestone. Hopefully it will help me to improve my overall chest strength, and hopefully you found it instructive for yourself. And let me know in the comments what you thought. Also want to give a special thanks to my patrons. I really appreciate your support. It means a lot to me and helps me to keep things going. Also down below, if you want to consider supporting me on Patreon, check out that link below. Of course, it's not required, but I do appreciate that support. And finally, over here, I have linked the video where I give some tips when I first broke over the 2300 barrier in the Tactics Trainer, some tips to help you with your improving your own tactical training experience. So check out that video, and I'll talk to you soon.